Recording in progress.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this November 4th meeting of the Somerville School Committee. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2024, this meeting of the school committee will be conducted via hybrid participation. We will post an audio recording, audio-video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of these proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the City of Somerville website and local cable access government channels. Superintendent, will you call the roll?
Yes, through the chair, Ms. Barish.
Here.
Mayor Ballantyne, President Owen Campen, Mr. Green.
Here.
Mr. Bitton.
Here.
Ms. Bitton.
Present.
Dr. Ackman.
Here.
Dr. Phillips.
Here.
Chair Krebschen.
Here.
We have quorum.
We will start with a moment of silence and a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now introduce our interpreters. Spanish, will you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Adi Benate. I'm going to be the interpreter for tonight for Spanish language. So if you need interpretation for Spanish, please click on the button below down on the right. Thank you.
Thank you. And Portuguese?
Good evening. My name is Sueli Carney, and I will be your Portuguese interpreter for tonight. To listen to this meeting in Portuguese, click the globe on the bottom of your screen and select the language. Boa noite, meu nome é Sueli de Carne e eu serei a sua intérprete de português essa noite. Para ouvir essa reunião em português, clique no globo no pé da página e selecione a língua.
And Haitian Creole.
Bonsoir, moi c'est Tia Santos, moi c'est créole haïtien, interprète pour Asoya. Sous besoin d'interprétation, ou ap gade en bas écran, ou ap petit globe qui en haut, ou ap cliquer sur lui et ou ap tande moi-même qui parle créole pour me dire ça qui passe, OK? Merci.
Great, thank you. That brings us to the report of our student advisory. Oh. I think we're done.
So the quarter ended on Friday, and this Thursday there's going to be a unified basketball game. The junior class officers did a voting drive, so I think they went, I'm not entirely sure, I think they went around the cafeteria checking people's voter status, making sure they're registered to vote. And there have been a few sports playoffs. I know the girls soccer team won the GBL, but unfortunately they lost the first playoff game. And I think same with volleyball, except they did not win the GBL.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any questions for our student rep? All right, thank you again for that. That brings us to public comment. I believe that we do not have any public comment, correct? Okay. That brings us to approval of minutes. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes from October 7th, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Barish, seconded by Dr. Ackman. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. That brings us to the report of the superintendent. Dr. Carmona?
Welcome, everyone. I hope your transition from daylight saving time to standard time has been a smooth one. I know that some folks are impacted by the lack of daylight, so if you notice a change in your mood or a change in your children's mood, please inform your service provider or inform a teacher in any of our schools. Today, the focus of the superintendent's report is mainly around the strategic priority number 1, which is around academic excellence, and more specifically as it pertains to some of the pathways that we have for education in our district. And we continue to work around building a common and shared understanding on our best practices, our different number of materials and curriculum that we are also supporting in all our grade levels is also a big part of making sure that we build a sense of shared commitment around those materials and practices. So over the next 2 meetings, you will hear from just a few examples of the way in which SPS is already committed to an implementation of our priority number 1. Today we'll talk about CTE and scale, the academic updates from Dr. Boston Davis, and next week we'll have an update on early childhood from our SFLC team. So tonight we have presentations by Director of the High School Center for Career and Technical Education, Mr. Hatchie, Jim Hatchie, and also Director of Scale, Jocelyn Martin. They will not only share overviews of the respective departments, but also highlight their hard work, particularly over the last 2 years to build new and enhanced opportunities for all their students and adult learners. Our commitment to our learners applies not only to students in the pre-K to 12 environment, but also to adult learners starting at age 16 through Scale. In addition to programs and curriculums through district funding, Jim and Jocelyn have won grants totaling over $1 million that provide educational and career development opportunities for dozens of our new students. Their work provides specific career development pathways, such as healthcare, outside of normal school hours. These pathways allow students to obtain licensure in several career fields, and we have even seen direct benefit of our district through programs such as Scale's new paraprofessional training program. We are thrilled to have this collaboration and thrilled to have the two of them leading this program. I invite Jim and Jocelyn to present more details on the work in their own words. So welcome, Jim, and welcome, Jocelyn.
Good evening. Thank you for your time, Dr. Carmona. School Committee, as we mentioned, we're very excited to be here tonight and to talk a little bit about, I'll go over what we're doing in CTE, Jocelyn will go over what we're doing and what she's doing in Scale, and then we'll talk about the collaboration that we're going to have over the next several years. So as I left you last year in my last presentation, you all remember Sam Ryan went on to Skills USA. So Sam went to advertising and design, and Sam placed 8th in the nation. So congratulations to Sam. If we go to the second slide, I do have some pictures of Sam. There you go. And we had Sam competed against 50 contestants, and Sam is a senior this year, and Sam is very excited to get back to Skills USA. So fingers crossed, Sam will be competing once again this year. You have to go through locals, and then districts, states, and then you make it to nationals once you win states. So Sam's got a long road ahead, but I'm pretty confident in Sam's ability. So our summer programming, want to go over what we did over the summer, and so we offered 4 different CTE programs for rising 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, and that included health careers, carpentry, graphics, and culinary. It was 3 weeks for the program. The students picked the program for 1 week at a time. They could do 1 week, 2 weeks, or all 3 weeks. And so we had 48 students enrolled in our summer CTE program. And so I felt the need when I got here. We didn't have summer programming for CTE, so I felt the need to include that. And that's looking at the three-prong approach. You want to go from the middle school to the high school and then to the programmings that we're working with Scale on. So another prong in that approach would be the pre-apprentice program that we ran this summer for the construction trades with Mass Hire. And so that was for 18 to 22-year-olds. It was a 9-week program. And we offered 2 weeks in carpentry, 1 week in plumbing, and 1 week in electrical. Now, working with Jocelyn and her connections at Mass Hire, we're going to change that up a little bit, and we'll be able to offer a lot more, and we'll be running the program with Jocelyn. So our CTE teachers are going to really be involved, and we'll be helping her run the full program this summer and hopefully the upcoming school year. So we've been working to get the state approval from DESE for CTE, for our full circle students. So I've been working on this for the last year and a half with the state. So we worked with the Office of College and Career and Tech Ed for the approval of full circle students enrollment in SHS CTE programs. So prior, we were not getting credits for the students, and the students were not getting credit for CTE. So currently, all 20 full circle students enrolled in CTE will get credit for attending CTE programs and earn the same certificate and credentials as our graduating SHS graduates. So that's huge, that's big for our students, and we're very excited for that. So. And I want to thank Elizabeth Bennett, Liz Bennett, the Associate Commissioner, Nicole Smith, and Marnie Jane for helping us through that process. It was a long process, but we were able to get through it. So we look at our overall enrollment. So if you look at our enrollment these are all October 1 numbers for 21-22 school year was 634 students, and the enrollment went up the next year to 687. Then the 798, and this year for October 1, we're at 875 students out of the 1,400 students in CTE. So as you can see, over the years, we keep growing these programs, and I think our teachers are doing an unbelievable job by really raising the bar and putting the rigor into these programs, and I'm so proud of everybody in CTE because these are big numbers, and we keep pushing the staff to make sure that we're making it exciting in the CTE areas, and they really are making that happen. So congratulations to my team for making that happen. And then if you look at our overall enrollment, so our freshman class, class of 2028, 324 students, and then sophomores, 247, juniors, 175, and then our seniors right now is at 125, and that gives you the overall 875 enrollment. So we look at community programming. As we talk about what we want to continue to do in CTE and where we're going, so cosmetology is open to the public on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 1. The clinic's been averaging over 10 clients per day that they're open, so you can see how you can make an appointment, get your hair done, nails, whatever you want to do in there. So they've been great. It's so good. Alicia, Miss Kirsten, she had a picture of one of the students working on a 100-year-old client in the clinic the other day. So so we're really bringing the clients in. And it's really great to see, and the kids do such an unbelievable job. This clinic that I've seen this year is by far the most professional clinic, and our students are really stepping it up, and very proud of our students in the clinic and offering those services. Automotive is open to the public and have been averaging 15 to 20 cars per week. You can have the forms online, and so it's the work request. And so anybody from the community can request to have work done. And they've been doing an outstanding job. And the 2 instructors in there, once again, along with their students, have been just doing fantastic and great work. I bring my car in there, for sure. That's definitely a benefit of working here out in Somerville, that's for sure. So culinary has been open for takeout to the high school on average 2 to 3 days. They had 2 veterans breakfasts with over 40 to 50 veterans in attendance. They have 7 more booked. We have the Counseling on Aging. We're doing something, we started this last year. We have the Counseling on Aging coming in. They get services in cosmetology, and then they go up for a meal up to culinary. So it's great to see, and we have the community policing that bring them in, and it's really a good relationship builder with the community. So that's great to see. So they do an outstanding job with that. They have the Kiwanis coming up next week. I believe it's next week for a meal. So it's really good to see that all come together as well. So we met, the automotive department and myself met with Second Chance Cars. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but it's a 501c3 corporation that provides refurbished and affordable used cars to low-income veterans and returning citizens. And so these cars allow the new owners a chance to obtain living wages and ability to achieve their full potential. So what we're going to do for them is we're going to take in cars, we're going to refurbish the cars, and we're going to bring them back out to the community. So it's all vetted through social service agencies. And so what we'll end up doing is we'll have them come in, we'll work with the client on what we're doing with the car, and then we'll have an unveiling of the vehicle. So we met with them last week, and already we got a call and said, hey, we got a car for you. So there's several other CTE programs in the state of Massachusetts that does this program. It's fantastic. They heard the feedback from some of the programs, so now they're starting to offer, they also donated $1,000 in scholarship funds for each school for the graduating seniors. You know, that could be a senior that needs tools to go out to work. That could be a senior that needs driver's ed to go out to work. So we can use, they allow us to use that $1,000 for whatever we feel the use for our students. So just another great outreach. And so I did ask, and I knew people were probably gonna ask me, can it be a Somerville resident? So if they ever get anybody that's vetted through and they're up for a vehicle, they will give us first line of refusal on taking in that vehicle. So we're very excited for this program. It's going to be great, and our students are excited to actually get work on a car and give back to the community. We have another program that we're very excited about. Is we're going to be working with the Somerville DPW. So it's called Let's Get Working program, and it will provide SHS CTE students critical job skills and experience and help fill in any labor gaps within the DPW. So right now it's in the planning stages. We're very excited about it. This will be a cooperative education placement. So we have potential programs being carpentry, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and welding. And so kudos to Allison from DPW for working on this program, and Jill and her team working with our team. So we're very excited to get this going. So if you ever hear of anything going on with the program, please push it along if you have any input on that, because this will open up a lot of doors for our students, and it's going to fill those gaps for the DPW. So it's a win-win for everyone. So as we look at the cooperative education, so we kind of went over before the approved Chapter 74 programs. You got to be in the shop for 1.5 years and be at least 16 years old. So this year, our teachers took on the challenge for an educator and their professional learning goal to build up our cooperative education program and internship opportunities for their students. So they made that their professional practice goal, and so we're really pushing for our kids to get out and to the world of work. And so as you can see right now, we have 26 students that are going to be going out or that are out on co-op, and then we have some folks pending. So I won't go through the whole list. One thing to note, that we made some changes last year with the curriculum that we're offering for health, and so this year is the first time that we have all 15 of our students out on co-op in our health programs. And so that's because they they get their CNA certification earlier than they have in the past. So those changes, and the instructors really took the lead on that, and once again, kudos to our instructors for making that happen. And I believe that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much. I will start with a question that I'm guessing some of my other colleagues will also have, which is culinary open to the public? Do we have any?
Yeah, so we've had this discussion a couple times. So we are going to, unfortunately, the culinary has 6 seniors in it. The program has 6 seniors. So the only time that we possibly could be open for that program, we could do a breakfast open to the public. We're looking at maybe that option, but only having the 6 seniors to really open to the public, we wouldn't have full control of that situation. So that's why we've been doing open to the high school. We could probably open it up even a little further to the offices over in this area, or the offices down the Somerville Public School offices, but it's really hard to open up to the public not knowing what that's going to bring, and really only having 6 students in that senior class. Next year, we have 12 students, and then we have 22 students in our sophomore class. I know that's probably not the answer you want, but it's really tough to do that. It really is when you're running a restaurant.
Thank you for this presentation. Every time you come and share what's happening in CTE, I'm just so impressed and grateful for the work that you're doing, because it really seems like you're innovating and expanding all the time, and it's awesome. I love the $1,000 scholarship that you could use potentially for driver's ed, because I understand that that's a barrier for some of our students in progressing through their career goals. So that's awesome. I don't have any questions, just thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
I have a couple questions. Should I do them all at once, or?
Just go ahead and do them all at once.
Okay. As always, thank you. In my day job, I love bragging about Somerville. I believe we actually have the best comprehensive high school vocational program in the state. So I love to say my day job. And in my day job, I had the opportunity last week to visit Madison Park and Boston Day Evening Academy. And while for me, it brought some new questions. One of the things I talked about at Madison Park was they're creating supports for students who are struggling in the shops, similar to the ways we're all used to seeing supports for people who are struggling in academic classes. And it occurs to me that I don't know what we do as far as support services for students who may be struggling in shops. So I was curious what interventions we have for those students.
Sure. So, yeah, we do have some paras that do come in, for our special ed students. I have on my staff, I have a bilingual para that we push into the class.
That's what I meant.
And, yeah, on any day, you can see the special ed paras pushing in and helping in the shops.
Thank you. But I may have been unclear. I was more specifically asking for students who may be struggling with the content or the workload or whatever it may be, in the same way that if a student was in danger of failing math, we would have systems and specialist interventions in place. Do we have those for students who may be struggling in the shops?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So we do have extra help before school. We have every teacher, almost every single of my teachers are here early because they all travel in. And so they do have office hours in the morning. Most of them are willing to stay after school as well with those office hours. So I think that support in place really is helpful. And then we do have the X block where our students can, if they're struggling, we try to do the X block during our CTE time, so that if they are struggling, they can get extra help at that time as well. But thank you for your clarification.
And thank you for your answer. So my next question is about the lesson working program. And in particular, you know, one of the reasons interest in the trades has correctly and rightly gone up is because there is, especially in the Boston area where we have such strong trade unions, a clear path to middle-class sustainability. So I was curious to know what role, if any, like SMEA may be playing in the Let's Get Working program, and if we are providing meaningful pathways to those union jobs.
Yeah, so as far as the electrical union, the carpentry union, plumbing union, so absolutely. So on our advisory committees, we do have representatives for the, like the electrical, the local 103, and then the plumbing advisory committee has representatives from the union, and then the carpentry has representatives from those unions. And they actually come in and talk to our students about the process of applying for the union, and they walk them through the process of doing that. So it's great to see, and we have built those relationships over the years. So, and they were in place prior to me coming here, but just keep building those relationships.
And for the kids working with DPW, are they talking to SMEA?
Are they talking what?
To SMEA, the union that represents those workers in DPW.
I do not. I'm not privy to how this program's going to roll out. I think at this point I think that's what they're doing right now. That's where the union talk is going on to make sure we can push through this. Yep.
Great. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I think we can go. Oh, yep, Ms. Patel.
Thank you, Chair, through you. I was surprised, and this is positive, the high numbers of students that are participating, and it continues to grow. And I'm curious, and you may not be able to answer this, I don't know if the superintendent would be able to answer it. More than half of our students are participating in CTE. How does that create, or maybe doesn't create, challenges for scheduling as we move forward? And how is this situation going to inform potential future high school schedules that I know are, at least in the ether, to be changed?
Dr. Carmona?
Yeah, so I could talk a little bit about that. Yeah, absolutely. So, every year there's a process in place, and we're going through that right now to look at the schedule and to see if there's anything that the high school can improve on. And then we may put or may not put a new schedule forward, and then, there's that approval process. But yeah, there are more and more numbers, and we've been working over the years to make sure that we're aligning everything so that these numbers can continue to grow. So I don't think this is the end. I think this is just the beginning of getting those numbers.
Just if I can add to that, as you know, schools are run by the schedules, and so it's one of our unfortunate hallmarks, or a fortunate hallmark, is that everything is driven by the schedule. And to that, the impact that it has, for example, in opening culinary to the larger public, one of the challenges is I wanted to utilize other students from different grade levels, but they will be impacted by their curriculum. So we don't want to pull out a student from getting services to do culinary and support the restaurant. So anything basically that requires giving students more options in our daily days, it has an impact on the schedule. So we're working, actually one thing we're doing across the board is looking at our X blocks to make sure that we are maximizing our support or enhancing the maximization of support for students. So any minute that we have in the day is really crucial to support students.
And actually, I have a related question. As our numbers grow, which again is exciting, are you finding that there are more and more students who don't get into the shops that they want to get into, or are we not hitting that problem yet?
No, we did. Last year we did. We had to run a lottery for three areas. It ended up being two because health careers ended up taking 40 students rather than 20, because we have two instructors in that program. So it will and will continue to impact that. And so the way it works is if there's 40 students that, want cosmetology and they all pass cosmetology, then they would go into a lottery. So the top 20 that get picked out of the lottery first will get that, and then the next one will be waiting list 1, 2, all the way to that bottom 20. So yeah, we did have a couple programs last year that unfortunately we had to do that with.
Phillips?
Thanks, through you, Chair. Just a follow-up to that. So if you don't win the lottery in the first year, then are you kind of out of luck in terms of any shop, or you can enter the lottery the next year? How does that work?
Sure. So we asked the kids to pick 5 choices. So they'll get their second choice. They'll go on a waiting list. So if they're number 2 on that lottery list, on the what we call the waiting list, they'll stay on that waiting list. And then sometimes over the summer, things will change. Someone will move out of district. They'll call us and say, hey, I know there's an opening in early ed. Can I take that opening? And then that may open something up in cosmetology or whatever program they're looking for. So, yeah, we'll maintain that till the middle of sophomore year. So in order for the students to meet the hours requirements for Chapter 74, middle of sophomore year is really the end cutoff for the switch. You're welcome.
Through you, another follow-up. Is the barrier then to admitting all the students who want to enroll essentially staff? Is it also sort of the size of the shops themselves? Sure.
So it could be staffing, could be the size of the shops. It's mostly the size of the shops. We are running into some capacity issues in some of the programs. So, and we can increase that, but we want to do that in a safe manner, and so that will be, and we'll have the talk with Dr. Carmona and his team about increasing the staffing this year for a couple programs to help with that, just to maintain safety and keep it where we can keep those programs growing.
Mr. Bitone and then Dr. Ackman.
Thank you, Chair, through you. First of all, just want to echo my colleagues' appreciation for the presentation. So much good news, hard to figure out where do I really focus. But just continuing on this thread around the increasing enrollment in CTE, and this may be a question more for Dr. Davis or Superintendent, but I'll start here. With the increasing numbers of enrollment in CTE, is there sort of a commensurate pressure on enrollment for unenrollment for certain electives or classes on the non-CTE side of the house? We have a certain number of students and a greater proportion are taking CTE, so I'm wondering what is the sort of impact of that system-wide?
Thank you, through the chair. So in short, my answer is that the high school schedule and the pressures and around class size is incredibly complex. I sat in on the department chair meeting last Thursday it was either Thursday or Friday of last week where they were discussing this very thing. So in short, I don't have that information. I'm happy to connect with Alicia Kirsten and Jody Remington, who are considering course selection right now and the course catalog for next year right now, based on some of these very numbers. But I don't have that information, but I'm happy to get that for you if that's helpful.
Dr. Ackman?
Thank you, through the chair. I echo my colleagues' sentiments. Thank you. I'm curious, my understanding is while we have robust program offerings, we don't offer all that are available across the Commonwealth. So I'm curious if there seems to be organic interest from students that we don't have, or if there's something, looking into, we're trying to prepare students for a somewhat unknown professional future. Like, are there opportunities that we should be looking 5 years, 10 years to make sure that we're setting up students as best as possible? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're talking about additional programs. Yeah, we, unfortunately, there's not a lot of space in that school. So to add a program would be very tough, because there are a couple areas that we looked at that we could potentially, grow, and, whether it becomes a pathway or whether it becomes a full Chapter 74 program, there are a couple different areas that we may look at eventually. But ultimately, we would have to look at enrollment in other programs in order to start a full Chapter 74 program.
Great. All right, with that, I think we can go to our next presentation.
Jocelyn?
Please.
Good evening, school committee. Thank you for inviting me today to do a presentation about some of the new programming that we started at Scale. If you can make it a little bigger, that would be good. So the first, we have some pictures from our graduation ceremony, which our school committee chair and Dr. Carmona and Dr. Boston Davis was in attendance. It was a wonderful graduation, and we also have a picture of our paraeducators, the cohort from last year, doing some work in the classroom. So you pass this one. So I just wanted to share some numbers about what the enrollment numbers have been for the last few years. As you know, I've just completed my first year. So for the high school equivalency program, in the fiscal year 23, the enrollment was 128. Last year, when I started, it went up to 148. And this year, so far, we have 160. And for the first time, I think in a long time, we actually have a wait list. We have about 40 people waiting for high school equivalency classes, which before, we had to kind of really go out there to do recruitment. So we're very proud of that. And I have to say, a lot of the high school equivalency students this year are actually students that were attending Somerville High, and for many reasons, they dropped out. And we really want to capture them before they kind of disappear. So we have prioritizing bringing those youth in. Our ELL program, again, 3 years ago, 209. Last year when I started, it went up to 254, and this year so far, we have 283. And I started the paraeducator training program, which I kind of introduced last year. Our enrollment last year, we had 17 who graduated from the program, and we currently have 19 enrolled in the program, representing 15 different countries. So multilingual, multicultural candidates who hopefully will be joining the Somerville Public School as paras next year. And then the graduation numbers, in 2022, we had, 5 graduates who graduated from the high school credential, and the year before, 15, and this year, my first graduation, we had 32. So as you can see, we were able to increase the numbers, and we're very proud of that, the hard work. Next. So I wanted to share where some of the new initiatives that we started this year, and I'm very grateful for the funding and the collaboration that we have been able to establish with Mass Higher Metro North Workforce Board, as well as Jim and the CT at the high school. It's been wonderful. So this summer, we were awarded a Work to Thrive grant from Mass Higher Metro North, and this was an initiative to provide ESO classes for staff, employees of small businesses in the city of Somerville. So we were given 36 slots. We actually ended up enrolling 60 individuals, and they completed the 10 weeks. The attendance was literally 99%. It was awesome attendance. So we had, and my next slide I will share some more information about that. And then this summer too, we applied for for out-of-school youth grant, as I mentioned, because we have been seeing an increase in the number of out-of-school youth that are coming to enroll at Scale, we applied for the grant from Mass Hire. So we're going to be able to serve 22 out-of-school youth, ages 16 to 24. And as of now, I can say we have about 55 enrolled since we started in September. And we keep getting more. We also received recently a JCRT grant to be able to do some contextualized ESOL instruction and looking at pathways and workforce and how we can offer opportunities for students who are completing ELL or finishing their high school equivalency to enter a training that can be 16 to 20 weeks in length and helps get them into a job, a well-paying job. So in this case, we're going to be offering an ESOL with early childhood education. We are collaborating with the First Five cabinet and for the city of Somerville. We'll be looking to recruit students to enroll in the class. They will be able to have access to a child growth and development class, which is one of the requirements to be able to get a teacher's assistant position in early childhood education. And the goal is that at the end, they're going to be doing an internship and they're going to get enter employment, hopefully within the Somerville early childhood educators, which is a huge need right now from my meetings with the First Five cabinets, right? And then the second one is a contextualized ESOL with CNA, with a certified nursing assistant. And this is a program that we're going to be doing with Jim as well at night. And we're going to be offering that one and the early childhood education in the evening. We're going to be using the staff from the vocational, the CTE department to be able to teach the CNA training. Right now, Jim and his staff had to submit an application to be able to get a DPH license specifically for this adult program. So that's what we're waiting for, to hopefully start the program as soon as we get that. And we also collaborated with Mass Hire for a third, and CTE for a third program, which is a summer trade pre-apprenticeship. I know that Jim mentioned that there was one that took place this past summer. So this one we're going to be able to offer next summer for 9 weeks. And Scale, we're going to be doing the recruitment, the outreach, and it's going to be specifically for youth ages 18 to 22 from Somerville. Okay. And here's pretty much evaluation results from the Mass Hire Thrive grant that I mentioned. So we had student demographics, 78% were either Portuguese or Spanish, and the rest were Haitian students, and 86% this indicated that they saw a growth in the learning of English skills, and in the testing that we administer, over 85% as well went up a level in ESOL. So there were a lot of great information from here. One of the great things about this program is that they were able to receive a gift card for $1,000 from Mass Hire to be able to support like childcare or transportation, any of the needs that could become a barrier for the students. And they also receive a laptop and a hotspot for 1 year free. So, and the students, like I mentioned, we enroll 60, and I would say 95% of them, we kind of continue with them in our regular program. So they are now students at Scale. So this is the Mass Hire School Youth Grant that I mentioned. We're going to be able to serve 22 students out of school youth, 16 to 24, and there are different pathways that they're going to be entering into Scale. We have some that come in, recently arrived into the country and the city, so they will go into our ELL pathways, but the majority right now are in the high school equivalency program, and last year we started a Spanish high school equivalency, so we have a combination of English and Spanish enrollment right now. We also have 3 young people in our paraeducator training cohort that are part of this grant. And in addition to those pathways, we also adding a leadership development piece. They're going to be able to take an intro to entrepreneurship. They will have financial literacy classes, and they will get some work experience and job shadowing. We're working with the Somerville Education Foundation to do that component, and also mentoring. So that's part of the program. And And I mentioned the JCRT grant, so contextualized ESOL programming. So we are in the process of starting a new ELL Level 1 at night. Last year, I was able to add a second ELL Level 1 in the morning because right now, our current wait list is over 500. Students are waiting for ELL classes, so we try, and the majority of them are beginning level, so that's why we're focusing on adding classes for the beginning level. And then we added a bridge class, one in the morning and a night, and that is for students that are exiting the ELL program or the high school equivalency. They want to go to college, but they might not have those skills yet, so we're going to be focusing on reading and writing in those bridge classes and then connecting them to college after they complete it. And I mentioned the ESOL with early childhood education, the CNA, and the paraeducator training. And then this is the summer trade pre-apprenticeship that we're going to be doing in collaboration with the CTE and Mass Hire next summer. 9-week summer program serving 10, 18 to 22-year-old Somerville residents, and they're going to have, exploratory. They're going to receive a stipend for participating. They're going to receive job readiness and ultimately job placement. The goal is to help them get a job in the field. Now, what do we have in progress? And Jim and I have been meeting a lot with Mass Hire. I think we have become their favorite provider in this region. So we recently submitted a proposal with them for an Environmental Protection Agency 3-year Climate Justice Community Change Grant. And they're actually doing it in conjunction with 5 other cities. So it's a major, regional application. And our focus will be on doing pre-vocational classes and math classes, recruitment to prepare people to enter HVAC and electrical at the high school in the evening. So we are hopeful. It's going to be a 3-year grant. We are hopeful that we might be able to get it, but we just wanted to share that with you tonight. And the other one that we're working on is a Workforce Competitiveness Trust Fund, and that one is to be able to provide facilities maintenance and hotel engineering to students in the evening at the high school as well. So these are, again, proposals that have been put out there, and we are hopeful that, if they get awarded, we'll be able to serve more people. And obviously, our focus is really to create more opportunities for adult learners and our young people who maybe didn't have an opportunity when they were Somerville High to do CTE. This is another route for them to have access to those courses in the evening. And I think that's it. So, yeah, any
Great,
questions?
Thank you. All right, I have Ms. Patone, Dr. Phillips, Mr. Green. Ms. Patone?
Through the chair, thank you so much for being here. This is incredibly exciting, the work that you're doing to get the grants, to launch this new programming, to serve a population that doesn't necessarily traditionally get served. It's really inspiring. My question is about how these programs that have been grant funded, they're year to year, right? And what are your thoughts on, is the future for sustaining these programs, continuing to get grants, or somehow working with the city and their workforce development to fund these types of programs? And how can the school committee support you in that work? Because it's wonderful to launch, whatever it is, 60 young adults, people learning the language. But if we can't continue the programming, it's not a sustainable model. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Right, so my take on to answer your question, I think 2 ways, right? One is to continue to look for grants out there because I agree with you that we don't want to do like a 1-year program and then have it gone. So clearly, I think building relationships and connecting and really doing the research about what are the opportunities that are there that are longer than a year. So for example, the EPA grant is a 3-year grant, and the Workforce Competitiveness Grant is a 3-year grant. So at least we're able to do that for 3 years. And in addition to, I'm communicating with our Department of Education, the ACLS, which is the arm that funds us, to really be able to see any other opportunities to increase our budget. Because right now, our budget is pretty much stays stays the same. Maybe we get a few $1,000s here and there every year, but it hasn't increased. And obviously, too, looking to get some support from the school committee and from as we increase the number of young people that we're servicing from the community, from Somerville, that may be looking at how can we get more funding to be able to support that.
Dr. Phillips, and then Mr. Green.
Thanks. Ms. Marte and Mr. Hatchie, I didn't say this before, but I'm so glad that you have chosen Somerville. We are better off because you have chosen to be here, and the work you are both doing to grow your programs and build partnerships is so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a really dumb question. The English classes that are run through the Welcome Project, is that related to the English classes being offered out of Scale, or are those separate?
No, that is its own separate nonprofit, and so it's not the same. We do collaborate. I know doing the Thrive Grant, they were one of the partners that received funding to offer classes as well.
Do you have a follow-up?
Sorry, so the English classes that we pay the Welcome Project to do, where does that money come from? Or are we no longer paying for that?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, I would not be able to provide you an answer on that. I will have to look into what is the current structure.
I think it's the family literacy that is done through the Family Collaborative Department, right? That might be paying for those classes. That's what I think is the family literacy.
I know that the Welcome Project and SFLC have a partnership, but in terms of the work that has been done through the adult learners, I would not be able to give you a response.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Thank you. First of all, as an aside, I'm on the Commonwealth Corporation's WCTF advisory board, and so I have no part of the decision on the grant. I'd love to help you with any insights I know about the process. And I guess to that point, sort of building off of Dr. Phillips' question, I know how complicated ESOL funding is in the state. It's objectively a mess. That said, I know that most of Scale's revenue comes from ABE grants from DESE. And I know that DESE has $59.5 million in this year's budget for ESOL. But what I don't know is, do our ESOL classes come from that budget or from the overarching ABE contract we have?
No, their classes, the funding that we receive covers both the ABE and the ELL.
Okay, that's messed up. We should fix that.
Yes.
And you mentioned there were 500 people on the wait list. Is that number you gave?
Over 500 right now on our wait list.
That's not an insubstantial portion of the 20,000 statewide, which speaks to the real demand and the real need. I would say to spend some of the $1 billion of unallocated fair tax money on ESOL education. And so I guess that would be my call for us to think about doing advocacy around expanding ESOL funding from the state.
And I have to share, 250 plus are Somerville residents right now out of that 500, because when I started, I made it a priority that Somerville residents should be the first ones to take in. So some of the classes that we are offering with the JCRT grant will be mostly for Somerville residents.
All of which to say, thank you for your work, and we want to be supportive. I do have another question, is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
And so my last question is, I think, for both of you. Again, thank you for your work. And I think you're tackling this, but I'd love to get more detail. I think, we have these gorgeous facilities. What can we do, in your opinion, to get more use out of those facilities, nights and weekends, so that we're using these facilities to their highest capacity to train people in Somerville for good jobs?
But our vision, I think, that we share is to try to grow the evening program.
So what can we do in the short term to help you with that?
Funding.
Fair enough.
funding, because that's why I'm spending a lot of time writing grants, right, to be able to bring these services, this program to scale into the community. But funding is definitely the challenge, and it takes a long time to do these grants. They're not, you know,
fully
in the
aware.
midst of doing everything else. So. And space, I must say, because that's the other challenge I have with scale. I don't have space. Like, I would love to serve those 500 people, but I don't know where to put them, you know?
And I'm guessing this is probably more a question for Mr. Hatchie, but I'm imagining staffing becomes an issue for you in evening or weekend programming, and potentially a conflict between your teachers who are there during the day, and it's their classroom, and a different teacher teaching at night, and sort of how do you handle that?
Sure, yeah, it can be for sure. And, you know, we had night programs running all 20 of the programs that I ran at my prior district, and there are strategies that you put into place, and one of the strategies that we're using with one of the grants is to have a student helper, to pay for a student helper built right into these grants, because that student can help facilitate things to go right back to the way it was the day before, or, you know, prior to the class. So that's one thing that we built in, and as of right now, 3 out of the 4 programs, we have instructors that are interested in teaching at night as well. So to have that instructor in place, that's fantastic, and to have that student helper to put things back the way it was prior to, so that when the instructor walks in the next day, everything is back. So that's built right in, the fund is built right in for, to employ a student helper in those programs.
Equipment.
Yeah, and of course, I'm building in some equipment as well. Yes, so, yeah, absolutely. So the grant I'm working on right now is going to be over $800,000, and 290 of it is new equipment for the night program. So we're very excited about that as well.
It is a $24 million grant, so it's a lot.
I didn't go for all 20.
No, we did not. But the other cities that are part of the collaborative, yes.
Ms. Barish?
Thank you. Through you, I'm just sort of overwhelmed by both of these presentations and just the collaboration and the creativity. It's just really awesome, and I could not say that. I did have a question. I guess just building upon what Mr. Green was saying about how to expand this programming in a sustainable way, and I'm just curious, and not like you have to tell me now, but I need to learn more about how maybe the city can better support these collaborations and this programming, in addition to the state, which I think Mr. Green was alluding to. So I just want to say I'm all for it, and I'll do what I can to help.
Thank you.
Ms. Patone?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Extending on what my colleague, Ms. Barish, was saying, how do you interact or collaborate with the city's Workforce Development Office? And to help me better understand sort of the funding issue. So you get state funding that's sort of capped at a certain level, so you can service a certain number of people. You pursue grants. You get, I don't know if you get any particular, funding from the city or the district. I'm sure some of the staffing is that way. And then do students pay to go to some of these classes? So none of these are paid
Never,
for?
no. We could get in a lot of trouble. We don't charge them.
But we don't have any paid courses that we offer to sort of subsidize unpaid. I'm thinking
Well,
about
our funding does not allow us, like ACLS,
so it would
the
have to be
Department
a
of
separate-
Education would not allow any student to pay for anything. So in the
It'd have to be a
formula
whole
that we
separate
give them, yes, includes like their textbooks, their
that's
like Chromebooks and those things that they need as part of that. But like you said, we do have a certain amount of slots that we awarded. So we have, 160 slots for ELL from the state and 140 for ABE. So everything else is supplementary with is the JCRT grant that we have received every year. Last year was a lot less, so this year we were able to get $450,000, which I'm happy that we were able to increase that. They focus in this year and contextualize ESOL. That's why we wrote this grant. But yes, that is.
No, that's helpful. And so going back to the original question, how, if you do or do not integrate with the city's workforce development?
Yes, we do work very closely with the workforce department. As a matter of fact, they were able to get us an ARPA grant to replace all the computers. We got $32,000, so we replaced the computers in a computer lab and also in the test center, because we were able to add GED as a new option for students that we didn't offer it before. So I'm very grateful to the workforce department because they get us the funding, and also they are the kind of the intermediary between Jim and I and Mass Hire. Jen Mancia has been an angel. I think, she's very supportive of the work at Scale and CTE, and she's always looking for opportunities and kind of bringing us on board when things like that happen. Yes.
So to follow up on Ms. Batone's question, and this is probably more for Mr. Hatchie than for you, but as we think about building out programs at the high school for evening and weekends, separately from the grant funding that we're talking about, where there's specifically the grant money is there and it is there to provide services that you're not charging directly to the student, I'm wondering if there's an avenue to be pursuing some paid programming that's happening at the same time in other parts of the CT program once the building is open that could be revenue generating to pay for the whole thing.
Sure. So there's a lot of different programs in vocational schools, CTE schools that, like, I'm thinking of the continuing education courses for plumbing license,
That's sort of what
electrical license. So there are programs, and it's great because you're here. So you're Somerville residents that are contractors working for the unions. They need all the continuing education courses. So there are definitely some programs. And I even have staff that would run classes for photography. So there's a lot of reach there too. And so I think over time we can build that up. But I think at this point we're going to try to get a couple things rolling and then roll it out slower than quicker, because obviously we want to be successful and get the classes running and then start the other programs as well.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I think we're ready for more of the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Thank you,
you.
Jocelyn, and thank you,
both for being
Jim.
here.
That was great for your support. Yeah. I'm going to switch to our curriculum director and our assistant superintendent, Dr. Boston Davis, in regards to our curriculum memo that was shared with you in advance. So,
Thank you, through the chair. I'm joined here by my colleague and somebody that you all know, Kathleen Seward, who is our current curriculum coordinator. I'll miss all the long title, but our K-8 curriculum coordinator of curriculum assessment, instruction and assessment for humanities, which means social studies and ELA. So thank you for joining me. And in a moment when we entertain questions, she'll likely come to support. So this evening in your package, you have a memo with the Q1 academic update. Starting this year, as presented in our September Ed Programs meeting, we have academic priorities, and our third academic priority is around communications. And so part of that, one of the efforts out of that is a quarterly update to the school committee with just some academic updates. This quarter's memo is going to focus on our curriculum for literacy in grades K through 5. So the first section of the memo that you'll find in your packet is just a really high-level background on all the curricular work that we've engaged in over the past, across subject areas, and it's laid out over a few years. So we call this the K-8 curricular rollout plan. Then the bulk of the memo focuses on literacy in grades K through 5. So there's a timeline that highlights the work that's been done since I was in this role, first as an interim, and then last year when I assumed the full position and Kathleen assumed her position as the coordinator for humanities. And so it kind of highlights the work that we did last year, and then finally where we are this year. It's worth noting here in the initial kind of section around our curriculum rollout, which is the appendix that you see here, there are a number of subject areas that are currently rolling out curriculum, and it's intentionally staggered. And so that's just to ensure that the necessary, that educators and administrators have the necessary knowledge, tools, and resources to successfully implement curriculum. Next, the memo focuses in on the current curriculum. So our current curriculum includes foundations for grades K through 2. We use Haggerty in small groups, in small group reading for grades K through 2, and we use an in-district developed curriculum that's based on the science of reading and based on recommendations of the National Reading Panel used in grades K through 5. As it's mentioned in the memo, and just to state here, we are currently undergoing a curriculum selection process for grades K through 5, so therefore the in-district curriculum that is currently being used will change. And finally, in the memo, it highlights some challenges that we're working through as we implement new curriculum and additional considerations that could be of interest for the committee. So overall, that's just a highlight. Overall, I'm really proud of the work that our team has done. It's been a tremendous amount of investment over the past couple of years, and working very hard to make sure that we have the best literacy programming for our students. And so with that, happy to entertain any questions.
So my first question is just, has this information been updated on the website yet?
Yes, it is updated up on the website.
Great, thank you. Dr. Phillips?
Thanks, through you, Chair. I don't know if either of you can answer this, or we need to wait for finance, so just tell me. But I've been getting comments from some administrators, and I think the sense that I'm getting is that iReady really opened people's eyes up to all the work that needs to be done, and people are feeling a little overwhelmed by where our kids are at and how far there is to go. And I'm just wondering, as we think through getting ourselves through the end of this year, what supports are we offering folks at the school level to start tackling just the enormity of the task before them?
Sure. I'll start, and then if you want to jump in. So I think that's a huge question. And I think one thing that's important to remember is when we have these new systems in place, it's important to have the ways in which we're planning to address them. So iReady was able to provide us with incredible data that really just helps to inform instruction. So for those in the committee and anybody watching at home, iReady is a formative assessment. It is not used to grade students or to level them in any way. It is really for information for the teacher so that we can best know how our students are learning and what they need to work on. So with that being said, once you have that information illustrated, it's really important to have the tools to be able to address those areas that are gaps. Here's what we're currently doing. One of the ways that we're doing is we do have the iReady personalized learning component. That's just for grades 6 through 8 as of now. We have other licensures. There has been Lexia trials, there have been Dreambox trials, and you can speak to those more, Ms. Seward. So those are all personalized learning platforms on the computer. So for grades 6 through 8, they also have that. The great thing about iReady is that it's adaptive, meaning that it meets the students exactly where they are, and so it can kind of meet the students right at their needs. We also, why don't I pass it to you to talk about some of the structures that we're thinking about and that we're starting to move forward on to address some of the needs that we have.
Sure. So I think, as everyone has said, there's definitely work to be done for our students academically. So I think there are two things that we always think about. What is the core that everyone is getting, and making sure that all kids are having access to grade level rigorous tasks, even if they may need some additional scaffolding and support to fully access those, so that we're not having students who are still working on skills from prior grade levels not able to access critical thinking and content at their grade level. So that one is really important, and we frame everything around thinking about how do we best do that. And I think this conversation is a lot about what is the support that we provide for kids who do have gaps, where we know that in the core they need to be able to access the grade level content, but there are things we need to do so that they can access that with increasing independence, so that we can see that change in test scores. And so some of the things that we're doing is really working on our X-block time, making sure that X-block is really used efficiently, and that teachers have both the data about kids, but also have resources to help students with exactly what they need. So Dr. Boston Davis talked a little bit about the individualized learning component for 6th to 8th grade, which we're really just launching in the past couple weeks. I had a chance to see it in a classroom in East recently, and the teachers were really talking about how it's really beneficial for kids because a teacher can be working with a small group while students are individually on a computer working on specific lessons that they need to work on. So it really enables a teacher to use their time with a small group working on something similar while other kids are also having their needs met, and obviously that rotates around. Also, we're trying to think proactively about our younger learners and making sure that we don't end up in a similar situation. So we're really trying to address things very early on. So one of the shifts that we've made this year is our reading teachers are allocated this year based on student data, student needs, instead of us just saying like this school gets this many, this school gets this many based on student enrollment. We actually assign people to schools based on the May DIBELS data for projections of where teachers would be this fall to support kids in reading. And we had to make some adjustments when we got our fall data. Of course, things are a little different. But this year we've been able to ensure that any kid who's at the intensive level on DIBELS is receiving reading services, either from a reading specialist or if they're on an IEP for reading from a special educator specializing in that. So also just trying to think, what are the things, so we're taking kids and getting them the supports before they fall behind.
Thank you. Through you, just a follow-up to start with, I guess. I just wanted to clarify, because in the memo it says that all 1st through 3rd grade students with a composite score at the intensive level are receiving reading support from an educator with specialized training. It sounds like you just said that even students beyond grade 3 are receiving...
No, just 1st to 3rd, yeah.
Okay. So then I guess my question is, you mentioned, additional support in X-block and the individualized learnings for grades 6 through 8. Are there additional supports in place for students beyond grades 1 through 3 that you haven't mentioned that you could tell us about?
So we do have, starting 2 years ago, we did have upper grades reading teachers, so many reading teachers who worked with kids in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Those were new positions after COVID. And actually this year, for the first year, we have people actually in both of the positions. The first year we were unable to hire for the second position, and last year someone was on leave for a lot of the year. So we do have 2 upper grades reading teachers who worked with students in grades 4, 5, and 6. The need outweighs the amount of time that they have, so we have to think about also different ways to support students, and which is why personalized learning is one of the things that we're piloting at the middle school level.
Sure, and if I may just add into that, and this is more of a bigger picture, I think that's the answer that I would provide, but I think this is a bigger question that aligns to actually the 4th academic priority for the year out of 5, which is around multi-tiered systems of support. And so as we think about, you might have heard this phrase, you can't intervene your way out of a tier 1 kind of challenge. And I think, if the need is outweighing our current supports, there's a question that becomes, well, do we have enough people, or is there something different that we need to do for tier 1, meaning for all students? I think, the data would suggest, the data that after, getting the iReady in place, the data after partnering with the Hill for Literacy would suggest that there are some tier 1, some core programming shifts that need to happen, and so that's our main work, and it's been our main work since we've partnered together. And so in light of that I will just also say, and this is kind of a preview, because in a December meeting, we'll have a full meeting on MTSS. Our superintendent fellow this year, Bobby Beretta, is working deeply on this very challenge that we're speaking about, and will be able to speak at great length around ideas for strengthening our MTSS within our district. So that and that kind of bigger framework is really important to keep in mind as we think about some of our academic challenges and complexity within it. I also just wanted to offer a point of clarification that the information within the memo, so our current curriculum, at programs presentations, all of those things are currently available on our website. This memo is not yet on the website, though it will be. Obviously, it's available to the public, it's in the packet, but it's not yet on the website. But I know that our Director of Communications, our Chief Communications Officer, is working on that, so it will be available very soon.
Great, thank you for that. I had Ms. Patone, and then Ms. Parrish.
Thank you, through you, Chair Corruption. Not a question, but a compliment. Seeing this change with having subject-focused leadership, which has come across in the last few years, and the sort of thoughtfulness, the support, the sustainability. I'm always asking questions about how do we sustain these changes, but just the way that everyone speaks and the commitment and this organic approach where you're getting this feedback, you're piloting things, you're getting feedback. I'm just wholly impressed and really happy. Sometimes I get feedback from the community questioning administration and what we have from administrators, but I just feel like this investment with this role, with the math and science role, has been huge in really being able to lift the work that the district's doing. So it's both the people and the roles and the organization. So I just wanted to name that and thank you all.
And just on naming and celebrating contributions, we will be remiss if we don't highlight the fact that our educators, who are the ones who are doing the daily work, daily grind, not only with one program but multiple programs, and the collaboration with our different partners. It is really. I feel that we are in a place where the sky is the limit. The willingness, the interest in addressing the needs of our students, the commitment for equity as well, is something that I feel that will allow us to continue on a growth trajectory. I hear the pain as to the question of what do we do when we have a child with a gap. I know that is a real sense that teachers have. As a teacher, what do I do when a kid is here and the post is here and is moving? Is that right? It's not like it stays static. Every year that goes by, if we're going to address the gap, we have to make sure that students grow at a 1.5 level. So it's not just even keeping an academic growth, but it's 1.5. So the complexities are numerous, and I just want to highlight the fact that without that partnership, this would not be possible. So thank you.
Thank you for that.
Ms. Parrish?
Thank you. Through you, I just wanted to say I think it's exciting that we have this, that we're accepted to participate in the Dyslexia Institute training. That's something that I've heard about from constituents, just wanting more support in that area in the district. So I think that's terrific. So thank you. And I was also curious, as we're beginning the study phase of the curriculum development cycle at the high school level, are there specific ways that the district will be asking families and students for input on that, or is there someone that families or students should email? I'm just curious about how we will be gathering feedback for that process.
Absolutely, through the chair. That's a great question. So within the curriculum development cycle, there is a space for regular feedback, and it's currently the way it's structured is that it goes through school site council meetings. So at the high school, that would be at a high school site council meeting. Now, I'd be more than happy to hear feedback if there's other ways that people would like to be engaged in the process around the curriculum review cycle, and I'd be happy to hear that feedback and kind of bring that to the department head who's leading the process at the high school around English. But that's currently the way it is structured within that cycle.
So, sorry, just, I guess I would be really interested in seeing ways for students to, be able to just sort of reflect on the curriculum that's in place now and have a role, I guess, in that process. I don't know how much role they would have in the current structure.
Sure. As a point of clarification, students or families? I thought I heard community before.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think families and students, but I think it's particularly at the high school level, I think that students are able to have that kind of conversation. And not that younger students can't, but I think, it's just another opportunity for them to advocate for themselves and be involved in that process.
Absolutely, yes. I apologize. I heard families, which is why I said the school got canceled.
Well, I did say both, so
okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Thank you. Through the chair, I'm curious, Ms. Barish's question and what Dr. Phillips said about iReady data. What are students seeing of their data, and where are they being given ownership over their learning, their growth? We have XBlock. As a former educator, as a researcher, they can take ownership pretty young, and now that we have this information and we're trying to treat it as a point of growth, that it's not like there's nothing shameful about it, how are we asking students to take ownership and engage? Because if we want them making 1.5 years of growth or more, they've got to be excited about it. They can't just be like told, do this. So are there efforts underway to do that?
Sure, through the chair. So I would say the first way that I think that would be the best way to incorporate student voice and feedback in this process is probably through the literacy leadership team that we're convening. In that process, not only are they designing or selecting curriculum, but they're also thinking about a vision, and often that vision includes student voice. A similar process happened with our middle grades educators, and as they thought about what is the vision for middle grades social studies educators, but as we thought about social studies and ELA, what vision that had and how student voice played in, I think that similar would happen with our literacy leadership team. I think also things like iReady have the potential to get students really excited about learning, and see their growth and track their progress. We really strive to make this not feel like a high stakes. In fact, in the guidance to principals, we say this should not feel like a high stakes, stressful testing environment. We should not have closed hallways like we do with MCAS where it's silent. We should not, this should feel like I'm going and I'm showing what I know. There are, brain breaks and games throughout, and then you do get to see how you're doing, but in a way that hopefully, with the right, we have a lot of framing videos and PowerPoints and lessons for educators and resources for educators, hopefully with that right partnership and guidance by our educators, as Dr. Carmona mentioned, that can be a way also to get them engaged and excited about their reading. So is there anything that you would add to that?
I would just say generally the practice of feedback to students, whether it's iReady feedback or feedback on a presentation they give in class, just saying, letting students know, here's what the expectation is, how do you think you did compared to the expectation, and here's what I think, and here's what's next for you. Just like that continuous cycle of improvement, regardless of where people are on the spectrum of achievement, that it's all about getting better.
So it is a great question, Dr. Ackman. I'm just thinking, bring it back to my days as a teacher, and I remember that unless we made that an intentional practice in my classroom in which we actually collaborated with kids to think about how they were improving their reading, It was something that happened not necessarily across the district where I was, but it was in a building or in a classroom. And so it brings to mind the work that we're doing around building agency for kids with Soretta Hammond. But it really, as we build best practices, it just kind of keeps on resonating, this question of feedback. One of the things that I've done these last 2 weeks visiting every principal was to think about how do we provide feedback to educators in a positive way, or not in a positive way necessarily, but in a non-judgmental way. But I think the culture of feedback is one that we need to dig a little bit more and be more aligned around across the board, but it is essential in order for children to own their own learning. And you're right, if we tell a kid, you have to grow this much, they could care less if they are not being involved in that process. So it's a good question, and we need to explore a little bit more, but there are many structures in place. As far as that becoming a norm across the board is one thing that we'll have to look into a little bit more.
Are there any other questions? All right, I think we can move on. Is there more to your district report? Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, before we close out tonight's district report, I have a few other important updates that I would like to share. First, the pre-K and K enrollment. We are now gearing up to another season of a school enrollment. Our pre-K and K enrollment opens in late January, but there are opportunities to tour schools and to attend information sessions beginning as early as next week. On November 13 and 14, families are invited to attend pre-K and K enrollment sessions. On November 13, from 9 a.m. on, we're going to have a Zoom session. We already have close to 90 people who have registered for that. And on November 14, around 5:30 p.m., we will do a session at East Somerville Community School. We are not tracking the attendance on that, so hopefully we'll have a large presence. And on December 6, January 9, and January 30, we are hosting open houses and tours at our pre-K schools. And for more details, please make sure you visit the Learn About Our Schools page on our website. And also, I wanted to share the fall sports roundup. 3 of our high school sport teams were GBL champions this fall: the girls soccer, the girls cross country, and the boys cross country. So give it up for our GBL champions. In addition, girls volleyball finally earned a well-deserved spot in the MIAA state tournament. Boys soccer team had another strong season but fell just short of defending their GBL title. The golf team qualified for the MIAA state tournament. The football team season is still going on and had a strong start and will finish out their season on Wednesday, 11/27, against Cambridge. Unified basketball team has an undefeated 3-0 record so far. They have their only home game this Thursday at Somerville High School, and will wrap up their season at the Jamboree in Malden. So let's pack the gym on Thursday and show our Highlanders some strong support. And the cheer team has a GBL competition next Wednesday, and we wish them all the best. And that is the end of my report.
Reminder that there's no.
A quick reminder that we do not have a school tomorrow, and we have a civic duty to vote. And also, I was really excited to have a conversation about how we are also demonstrating democracy in action by doing the work that we do during our meetings. But yes, there's no school tomorrow.
Okay. We have 2 reports of the subcommittee on our agenda, but I don't think either of them made it to our packet, so I'm going to table them for our next meeting. So that brings us to the MASC conference resolutions, which we did discuss at our last meeting, but they are on the agenda again if anyone has any further comments for our delegate to the Assembly. Mr. Green?
I actually just had a question about my instructions. After giving it some thought, I was leaning towards moving to replace the offending clause in Resolution 1 with a clause urging Massachusetts to replace MCAS with a more holistic assessment system rather than just calling for moratorium. And I just wanted to make sure that was seen to be in keeping with my current instructions.
Yes, I think that's all good. It's the first one. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, that brings us to some high school diplomas. Let's give out some diplomas. That's always fun.
I move to approve Somerville High diploma request for Marvin Timothy of Somerville, Mass. And Melanie Perez Matal of Somerville, Mass.
I have a motion by Dr. Ackman, seconded by Dr. Phillips. Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations to our newest graduates. That brings us to some grants. I will entertain a motion.
I move to accept all federal entitlement and continuation grants and all state continuation grants awarded to the Somerville Public Schools listed below. From Harvard Radcliffe, $10,000 for the Emerging Leaders Program, Harvard Radcliffe and Somerville High.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Ackman, seconded by Ms. Patone. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Oh,
Aye.
yep. Dr. Phillips, did you want to?
We can vote. I was just wondering, I've lost the thread on what the Emerging Leaders Program is. I'd love a 30-second update.
Thank you, through the chair. So this is a program partnership with Radcliffe for students at Somerville High. It actually comes through Jim Hatchie and the CTE department, but they're not necessarily in the CTE programming, and it's for students who are from historically underrepresented backgrounds, and they take on leadership projects. They're assigned a mentor from Harvard College, and they take on leadership projects together. I believe one of the students did climate change curriculum work, and then was present at the, maybe not, I think she was also present at the recent one, but was present and spoke about it at a past climate change curriculum committee summit that was held. So those are the type of projects that they work on. We actually are working with Megan McDevitt to get a little bit more robust understanding. As we were going through this as well, we were like, oh, this is super interesting. I maybe heard one or two, but would love to hear about all of the projects that are. So we're working internally to get a memo around that as well, but that's at a high level what the program is around. High school students getting mentors at Harvard College. They meet at Radcliffe and work on civic leadership.
And maybe if you discover that any of those might be willing to come and present what they've done to this body, we would love it, and we'd give them cake. Okay, so we had a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. That brings us to a donation.
I move to approve or accept with gratitude a monetary donation from Wegmans of $200 to the ML PAC.
Motion by Dr. Ackman, seconded by Ms. Patone. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Motion carries. That brings us to MSBA update. Dr. Carmona, do we have anything?
Yes, we do. Through the chair, we know we have an MSBA vote that has been scheduled for December, and that will be to move us to the next phase. I believe that that's an automatic going from eligibility to feasibility. So that's coming in December. I also wanted to follow up on the question that came out last time about the CAG, the Construction Advisory Group. So I know there's a meeting coming up on November 12th at the Somerville High School. And we now have an educator who is representing the Brown School, Julia Austin. We continue to seek a representative from the Winter Hill School. And Amara Anosike, our Chief of Staff, will serve as the SPS representative on the CAG, as well as several members of the executive team will continue to sit on the planning team with CBI and the city. So I wanted to share that that came from a conversation from last week.
Mr. Green?
First of all, thank you. That's all great news. But well, speaking of the CAG, I remember there's been a request by the Red Hill community, as expressed through a parent representative, to have CAG materials produced in all 4 target languages within a week before new meetings, so that they can share it with the community and give community feedback. That request has been in for about a month. So far, there has been movement on it. So this is me elevating that request, because I would agree with the representative that we cannot do our job of having meaningful conversations with the communities impacted if they can't access the materials.
Through the chair, thank you for the reminder. I saw that in the notes, and I will communicate with Jackie to make sure that I know that she's in constant communication with the leadership team. Yeah.
All right. If there is nothing further, that brings us to items from committee members. Does anyone have any items? Ms. Patel?
Through the chair, I've had a constituent, in response to, I attended a meeting at the Kennedy, and it was talking about the Elm Beacon Connector project, where they're looking into changing the parking. And one thing that did come up was wanting to get input from the city about the timeline for the outdoor space at the Kennedy. So, and the concerns about doing those things in concert with each other. So if we're making changes to the outdoor space and we're making consideration changes to put bike lanes and different things, and that person has not been able, a constituent hasn't been able to get the input from the city. So if you can reach out to the city and see if you can get any information about the timeline for the Kennedy outdoor space that I think was funded by the Community Preservation Act, but I'm not positive.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vito?
Thank you, Chair, through you. I recall sometime in the spring, I don't remember exactly when, but Mr. Mazza gave an update about accessible swings being installed in some of our schoolyards. And I was looking for an update from school administration on that effort, where that sits, how many schools, and what challenges we're facing in doing that, if there have been any. Very interested to hear about that.
Yeah, I was part of that original conversation that we had. There was someone who was donating the swings. I believe we ran into a challenge, and that was back then, so I would have to double check and see where we are. But I don't even know if any of them have been installed. My understanding was that the entire process was installed, but I have to double check.
May I? In that case, I'm very interested to hear what the challenges are and how we can help in overcoming them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any other items from board members? Seeing none, do we have any condolences this evening? All right. With that, we are adjourned. 8:37. Look at that.